Hey folks, I am excited for the PAC-T test I'm doing today. PAC-T, recall, is precision, accuracy, consistency, and terminal performance. I'm going to be shooting 5 rounds at the bullseye. That's going to give me my precision and accuracy measurements. Consistency is going to come from the lab radar. I'm going to look at the standard deviation of those muzzle velocities. And terminal performance is going to come from 1 round fired into the clear ballistic gelatin. I'm using the HK45 Tactical today, and this is the exciting part, ARX Inceptor 118 grain bullets. This is the next generation in defensive rounds. Let's see how it stacks up. Well, that's not bad. Just to the left of the bull, 1,300 feet per second out of a 45 ACP. Oh, that one flew a little high. Oh, quite a bit to the left on that one. There's our 5. Oh, it couldn't track the projectile. Well, we got 4 of the 5. 1,300 feet per second. That's going. You know, looking at that ballistic gelatin, I want to note to you that it might appear, you know, I had those 2 shots in that gel block prior to shooting this 118 grain bullet, and it might look like this bullet kind of followed the path of a previous bullet. Well, that's not really how it happened. You got to understand that this is a 6-inch by 6-inch block, and so it has depth and height and full volume. The shot was close, about an inch inward in the block based on how that camera angle was, and actually a little bit below, just a little bit below. So shot placement in these gel blocks is pretty important. What you don't want to do, of course, is have a bullet catch the path of a previous shot and start following that, and you certainly don't want to shoot right into another round. In fact, I usually get maybe 4 or so rounds in a gel block based on where those rounds were placed and how deep they penetrated, and then I'll have to cut that block up and remelt it. Well, while we're on the subject of the terminal performance and the gel block, let's talk about that with this 118 grain interceptor. Now, this was actually very interesting. I've really never seen a bullet do what this thing did. It flew into the gel. Actually, you could see that in that super slow-mo motion, and then it rebounded. It bounced back half the way again, and we only got where the bullet ended up was only about 7 inches or so of penetration. That was what it looked like. But based on the obvious permanent wound channel, and watching that footage, we could see that it did penetrate more. But the temporary wound channel, or what's called the transient cavitation channel, wasn't very impressive. It was maybe at the most, at the largest that we caught with the cameras, maybe 3 inches in height, and most likely it was kind of a volumetric thing, right? I mean, it was a 3 inches by 3 inch cone, probably, or balloon that popped open there, and that's what we were seeing. We have seen far better performance in lots of other bullets. The advantage of this 118 grain, I will say, is that the recoil was very minimal, but it was very snappy. It was a very quick recoil because of that 1,300, almost 1,400 feet per second of velocity coming out of these 45 ACP rounds. That was its advantage. But even with that velocity, it did not produce a very large and impressive temporary wound cavity. Now, based on the literature, whatever you're reading, you might see that there's very little wounding caused by that temporary cavity. But you got to read on. Normally, they'll, in addition, they'll say, unless. And that unless is unless that bullet is very close to very soft tissue. In other words, the liver will encounter damage due to a temporary wound channel, that hydrostatic shock, and so will the lungs. So a bullet placed where you probably are going to try to place it will probably do damage based on that temporary wound channel or that transient cavitation channel, the hydrostatic shock. But overall, when we did all of our measurements and ran it through the calculations, this bullet did not do very well. In fact, it did only marginally better than a target bullet like the Hornady HAP. And one of the reasons for that is the fact that it did not expand at all. Well, this is a polymer, it's a matrix type of bullet, and I suppose if it was designed to mushroom or to expand, it probably would have fragmented, which would have been even worse. It didn't fragment at all. That extracted bullet still weighed 118 grains, 100% retention. But the killer for it was the fact that it did not expand. And there's plenty of literature or reading out there that indicates that the effect of a bullet is highly correlated to that width, the diameter of that projectile. The larger the width, expansion, the more damage is caused by that bullet, given, of course, that it penetrates. And this one, I measured the full or permanent wound channel. We got 13 inches of penetration. That's not too bad, of course, pretty darn good, but it's very weird with that bounce back. That could be something with the ballistic gelatin, I'm not sure. But overall, the score was only 260 some points. Bear in mind that our best bullets are getting well into the 400s, 420s, and so on and so forth. That's the Spear Gold Dots, Sierra V Crowns. Well, there's more to our test in our PAC-T test than just the T component. There's the P, A, and C, precision, accuracy, and consistency. And for that, let's start by looking at the target. This was shot again with the HK-45 Tactical 118 grain interceptors, 50 degrees Fahrenheit ambient temperature. We had an overall extreme spread of 2.66 inches, firing this at this bullseye target at 15 yards. And by the way, if you're interested in getting some of our free extreme reloading targets that you can print off yourself, just see the description and look for the link right there. 4 of the 5 rounds impacted in the red. That's a good thing. and it scored 45 points with 1 in the X. Not too terrible that way. I pulled them, or they pulled all a little bit off to the left. Kind of normal that happens one way or the other. I would like to see them, of course, right over the top of the bull, but that's not how it happens all the time. You know, these interceptors are kind of interesting bullets. I always like to try new and different things when I'm doing different shooting, kind of like to experiment with that stuff. And a while back, I saw a comment, and the person noted, "Why are you guys always shooting these old-fashioned lead and copper bullets? Why don't you try something new and modern, brand new bullet designs?" Well, this interceptor is certainly one of those brand new bullet designs. And so I thought, well, let's take a look. This bullet is designed as a defensive round. But overall, let me tell you, this round really does not stack up to the old-fashioned lead and copper bullets. That deadly mushroom is still really something to be reckoned with, and this new stuff just can't quite do it yet. Well, I'm sure no one wants to get hit by any of these bullets, and this bullet could certainly do in an adversary, but in some situations it may not cut it. I mean, that's what the FBI protocol and the gel blocks all started out looking at, was penetration, expansion, weight retention, the big three in terminal performance. But of course, if the bullet can't hit its target, it can't be placed accurately, in other words, it's all over the place on the target, you know, that precision, accuracy, and consistent component is important as well. That's what we look at with our PAC-T tests. And final word on this interceptor bullet, I don't think that much of it. It's okay, but there are definitely better choices out there for defensive pistol rounds. Thanks for watching. We've got some more stuff coming up in just a week or two.